Have you ever been in a conversation with a woman and felt completely lost, unsure what she is truly thinking? The eyes darting, the subtle changes in tone, the micro-expressions, these are not random. Every subtle movement, gesture, and vocal inflection communicates volumes, often without a single word being spoken. Psychology has shown that women, consciously or unconsciously, reveal their thoughts through patterns that men rarely notice. What if you could decode these signals, understand her feelings, her hesitations, even her unspoken boundaries without her ever saying a word? This is not mind reading, but careful observation, understanding human behavior, and recognizing the subtle cues your brain usually filters out. Freud emphasized the power of unconscious signals in communication, while Jung explored how these patterns reveal deeper desires and fears. The way a woman positions herself, the rhythm of her speech, the fleeting smiles, or even the pauses, all are psychological breadcrumbs. In this script, we will explore the hidden language women use, how men can recognize it, and the science behind these subtle, yet powerful cues. By the end, you will understand how perception, empathy, and awareness combine to reveal what words cannot. Every interaction begins with signals that are rarely noticed consciously. When a woman speaks, her body, her posture, and even the smallest gestures communicate more than words ever could. Consider the way her eyes move during a conversation. A quick glance away may seem like disinterest, but in reality, it often reflects thought processing or cautious evaluation. Psychologists have long noted that the eyes are a window to the mind. The brief flickers of attention, the dilation of pupils, the rhythm of blinking, all can reveal emotional states, from curiosity to discomfort. Men often fail to notice these, focusing instead only on verbal content. This is where subtlety rules. Body language adds another layer. Crossing arms, tilting the head, leaning slightly forward or backward, each movement signals internal judgment or attraction, even without conscious intent. Women are socialized to control overt expressions, but micro-expressions, rapid, fleeting facial movements, cannot be faked easily. Freud suggested that the unconscious mind often betrays itself, showing desires, hesitation, or skepticism through these subtle expressions. Imagine a scenario where a woman smiles briefly but quickly tightens her lips. This small shift communicates uncertainty or guarded interest. If men learn to interpret these fleeting changes, they gain insights into her real feelings. Beyond facial cues, gestures speak volumes. Touching the hair, adjusting clothing, or shifting posture often indicate nervousness, self-awareness, or attraction. A hand placed near the face can reflect contemplation, while foot movements may indicate discomfort or impatience. These cues are often subconscious, and women rarely intend them as messages. Yet, for a keen observer, these signals form a psychological pattern. Men who ignore them risk misinterpreting intentions or missing important cues. Even the pace of movement conveys thought. A slow, deliberate gesture may indicate control and confidence, whereas rapid or erratic movements can reflect stress or excitement. Jung emphasized that these unconscious behaviors reveal archetypal tendencies, patterns rooted in deep psychological processes that guide social interaction. By observing these movements, men can detect emotional shifts before they are spoken aloud. Understanding these signals is not about manipulation or overanalyzing, it is about awareness. The science of subtle cues provides a framework to interpret thought without direct questioning. Each glance, smile, or movement is a thread, forming a tapestry of internal states. Recognizing these patterns allows men to comprehend her unspoken thoughts and emotional responses. The voice is one of the most powerful signals a woman unconsciously uses. Pitch, tone, and rhythm are subtle markers of her emotional state. A slightly higher pitch can indicate interest or curiosity, while a lower tone often conveys seriousness or control. Even the way she emphasizes certain words or pauses between sentences reveals subconscious patterns. Men who pay attention to these nuances can perceive feelings that words alone cannot communicate. In psychology, this is linked to prosody, the patterns of rhythm and intonation in speech, which is often processed instinctively rather than consciously. Conversation itself is a battlefield of attention. When she asks questions, observes reactions, or shares personal details, she is evaluating how the other person responds. The framing of questions, the sequence of topics, and even the selection of stories reveal what matters to her and what she seeks in a partner. Men frequently interpret conversation at a surface level, missing these hidden layers. Yet, each choice of topic or story subtly shapes perception and elicits unconscious responses. Emotional timing is critical. A woman may laugh, frown, or pause at moments that seem random, but they often reflect internal calculation or testing. Freud suggested that humor can mask tension or uncertainty, and laughter is not always a sign of pleasure. It may indicate nervousness, social strategy, or even a way to assess confidence. Observing the interplay between speech and nonverbal signals exposes patterns of thought. Silence can be as revealing as words. Moments when she does not respond immediately are not mere hesitation. These pauses are strategic windows in which the subconscious mind evaluates intentions, trustworthiness, and alignment with personal values. Jung described this as the shadow self revealing preferences and fears. A man attuned to these pauses can detect subtle shifts in comfort, interest, or apprehension. Another layer exists in the micro-details of expression while speaking. Slight eyebrow raises, nostril flares, and lip movements often betray emotion. They are not intentional, yet they form a complex language of authenticity. Women may unconsciously test reactions through these cues, gauging emotional resonance or evaluating potential threats. Observing these indicators allows men to perceive underlying feelings without direct inquiry. Subconsciously, social context shapes every interaction. A woman's choice of tone, gaze, or story changes depending on environment, past experiences, and perceived risk. Men who understand these variables can navigate conversations with a nuanced approach, noticing when she feels comfortable, guarded, or intrigued. The science of emotional perception reveals that much of what is communicated resides beneath conscious awareness, in rhythms, gestures, and micro-expressions that guide connection and attraction. A woman's body language often speaks louder than her words, revealing inclinations she does not explicitly state. Subtle shifts in posture, the angle of her shoulders, or the way she positions her feet indicate comfort or tension. Men frequently overlook these unconscious signals, yet they provide critical insight into her perceptions and emotional state. Psychologists describe this as nonverbal leakage, the involuntary display of emotions that cannot be fully concealed. A leaning forward posture can show engagement, while slight withdrawal suggests hesitation or caution. Eye contact is another layer of hidden communication. The duration, intensity, and frequency of glances convey a spectrum of emotions. Direct gaze may indicate trust, curiosity, or dominance, while fleeting glances can reveal uncertainty, shyness, or evaluation. Women may also use gaze to subtly test a man's reactions. The eyes operate as mirrors to inner feelings. Even small changes in dilation, blink rate, or direction can signal attraction, caution, or disengagement. Understanding these micro-signals allows men to perceive unspoken truths about her intentions. Touch and proximity provide additional, often overlooked cues. A casual brush of the hand, a pat on the shoulder, or maintaining closeness in conversation can suggest comfort or flirtation. Conversely, sudden distance or minimal touch may reveal disinterest or internal resistance. Social psychology identifies these behaviors as part of a subconscious negotiation of personal boundaries. Women do not always realize they are communicating preferences and limits through these physical signals, yet they are highly attuned to the reactions they elicit. Emotional mirroring is a powerful, often unnoticed mechanism. When a woman subtly mirrors gestures, speech patterns, or energy, it indicates subconscious alignment and rapport. This mirroring builds connection without conscious acknowledgement and can lead to a deeper sense of familiarity or trust. Men who recognize these patterns can understand feelings before they are explicitly verbalized. The tone of her laughter, sighs, and exclamations is equally revealing. Beyond words, these vocal cues express excitement, frustration, or interest. Psychologists note that such paralinguistic features convey emotional intensity and priority. A slight change in emphasis can indicate which topics resonate emotionally and which provoke discomfort. Observing these shifts offers insight into her subconscious evaluation of a man's character, confidence, and emotional stability. Social comparisons subtly influence her choices. When a man demonstrates competence, confidence, or humor, she unconsciously gauges how he ranks relative to others around him. Evolutionary psychology suggests that this comparison helps her assess long-term suitability. While she may not explicitly admit these judgments, they guide her decisions and interactions, creating a dynamic where attraction, interest, or caution is expressed indirectly. Emotional responses reveal a woman's true evaluation of a man more than any verbal statement ever could. Her reactions to humor, challenges, or discomfort are windows into her subconscious processing. For instance, a man who can handle teasing without defensiveness or who maintains calm under minor stress triggers subtle admiration. Psychologists refer to this as affective resonance, the emotional synchronization between individuals, which often determines long-term compatibility before conscious awareness occurs. Conflict or debate is another unconscious test. Women may observe how a man responds to disagreement, not because they seek confrontation, but because behavior under tension signals character. A composed, confident response conveys stability and maturity, whereas aggression or insecurity indicates potential instability. This dynamic often happens in micro-interactions, small disagreements, differing opinions, or minor misunderstandings, yet the impact on her perception is profound. Consistency between words and actions is critical. Women are highly attuned to discrepancies, even subtle ones. A man's ability to align promises with behavior demonstrates reliability and integrity, triggering trust at a subconscious level. Conversely, inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance, generating doubt and emotional withdrawal. Understanding these silent assessments helps men recognize that attraction often hinges more on demonstrated character than charm or flattery. Psychological projection also plays a role in her judgments. She unconsciously projects past experiences, expectations, and fears onto a new man, subtly testing whether he can navigate these projections safely. For instance, if previous relationships involved manipulation, she may unconsciously assess whether a new man could repeat these patterns. Observing her cautious behavior, hesitation, or questioning is not rejection, but a defensive evaluation based on prior emotional history. Subtle compliments, encouragement, or teasing are indirect signals of interest. They may appear playful or casual but serve as markers of attention and assessment. Women often communicate attraction and curiosity without verbal clarity, using indirect expressions to test receptiveness. Men who recognize these signs can understand attraction before it is openly articulated. Environmental context influences perception as well. How a man treats staff, strangers, or peers informs her judgment of empathy, respect, and social intelligence. She subconsciously assesses his ability to maintain fairness, kindness, and authority under varied circumstances. Behavioral psychology shows that these situational observations often weigh as heavily as direct interaction, shaping her emotional calculus about suitability. Finally, subtle patterns of attention indicate priority. Which topics engage her most, how quickly she responds, and her energy distribution reveal underlying interest. While words can mislead, consistent patterns of attention, emotional resonance, and nonverbal cues form a cohesive map of her subconscious evaluation. Understanding these signals allows men to interpret unspoken intentions accurately, providing clarity in a realm often clouded by social ambiguity. The culmination of subconscious assessments often manifests in how a woman allows emotional closeness to develop. She carefully monitors boundaries, observing whether a man respects her space, opinions, and autonomy. Respect for personal limits signals emotional intelligence and self-control, qualities that trigger trust and deeper interest. Conversely, attempts to bypass boundaries generate subtle withdrawal, signaling that further emotional investment may be unsafe. Shared vulnerability acts as another powerful determinant. When a man is willing to reveal genuine fears, doubts, or insecurities in controlled ways, it demonstrates authenticity and courage. Psychologically, vulnerability creates a mirror effect. Women feel safer reciprocating, leading to gradual attachment. However, false vulnerability, performed for attention or manipulation, is often detected at a subconscious level, eroding trust rather than building connection. Real attachment requires a balance between openness and restraint, revealing character without exposing weaknesses that may overwhelm early impressions. The role of humor and emotional timing cannot be overstated. Laughter and emotional alignment are tools for subconscious evaluation. Women instinctively measure whether a man's timing, tone, and understanding of social nuance align with their internal expectations. Humor is not mere entertainment, it is a measure of empathy, perceptiveness, and emotional agility. A man who misreads these cues may appear tone-deaf or disconnected, while accurate alignment fosters closeness and attraction. Nonverbal cues, eye contact, microexpressions, posture, and gestures carry enormous weight. Neuroscience shows that humans process these signals faster than words, creating immediate impressions of trustworthiness and intent. Women often use these cues to gauge consistency, emotional stability, and alignment with personal values. For instance, brief moments of sustained eye contact or mirroring movements indicate engagement, while avoidance or incongruent gestures create subtle alarms. Understanding this silent language allows men to navigate complex social dynamics effectively. Emotional reciprocity seals the process. When a man acknowledges and validates her feelings without judgment, a bond forms quietly. Women are finely attuned to the authenticity of emotional feedback, often more than verbal affirmation. Empathy, attentiveness, and responsiveness act as catalysts for attachment, transforming initial curiosity into emotional investment. Finally, timing and pacing are crucial. Women subconsciously assess whether a man can match their emotional tempo. Too rapid an approach can trigger caution, whereas excessive slowness may signal disinterest. Optimal pacing balances initiative with respect for her subconscious rhythm, creating trust and readiness for deeper connection. In conclusion, attraction is rarely a matter of surface-level charm or verbal persuasion. Women continuously and subconsciously evaluate men through emotional responses, behavioral consistency, nonverbal cues, vulnerability, and attentiveness. Recognizing these subtle patterns enables men to understand what women are thinking without explicit communication. True understanding comes from observation, patience, and alignment with her emotional world, allowing relationships to grow naturally, authentically, and sustainably.